Namaste, welcome to the podcast of Yoga and Lifestyle Medicine. I hope to find you well today. Remember, your diet is your first medicine. Today I will talk about cereals and pseudo cereals because we forgot everything about them. I'm going to talk about legumes also. In our society, the most widely used cereal is certainly wheat, which is ubiquitous in our diet and is quite decried today because of allergies. Rice is also widely used. Let's not forget also legumes, lentil or chickpeas, for example. So, what do all these products have in common? They contain a very large quantity of sugar in the form of complex sugar which requires significant digestive work to be broken down into simple sugars in order to be assimilated. Complex sugar do not taste sweet also. Cereals are therefore a source of sugars, and as a reminder, sugars constitute the fuel of the cell. They also have the advantage of being able to be kept for a long time, so they are a real asset in countries where the supply of fruit in winter is very uncertain. However, they have the disadvantage of being made up of very long sugar chains. Their assimilation will therefore depend on our ability to break down this long chain, and if the work of digestion is not complete, will feed bacteria and fungi that will proliferate in our intestines. But the cereal advantages. Its sugar supply, long shelf life, and some disadvantages of cereal are requires a lot of digestive work, risk of microbial proliferation if you have poor digestion. For a person with good digestive capacity, consuming a reasonable quantity of cereal does not pose any problem. Not that the wheat allergy problems first show a weakened ground. For people with low enzyme production, cereals will be problematic because they will cause a proliferation of microorganisms in the intestines. So why can they be a problem? As with oilseeds and oleaginous fruits, we will find in cereals anti-nutritional factors. It will therefore be necessary to have the same soaking reflex to trigger the germination process and allow the release of good nutrients. In addition to all these anti-germination factors that will prevent enzymatic work inside the seed, there is phytic acid by associating with the minerals present in the intestine. It prevents their absorption. There are also lectins, proteins, that also block the absorption of nutrients in the intestines and can promote general intestinal inflammation. It will therefore be necessary to prepare the cereals to avoid all these disadvantages. And all industrial products containing wheat are made from flour which has obviously not been soaked. This explains why so many people nowadays are undernourished because they do not absorb properly the nutrients and not knowing the basic principle of nutrition. So to summarize again, advantages of cereals, there are very high quantity of sugars, easy to store, and the disadvantages of cereal, there are very high quantity of sugars, potential digestion problem, and trapped micronutrients. Soaking and fermentation will answer the problem mentioned above. The bread of yesterday was also prepared from fermented flour, which allowed a decomposition of a large part of the long chains of sugars and proteins. In addition, this fermentation was carried out using leaven, which was filled with microorganisms and which gave a much more digestible bread than bread made with yeast. In Ayurveda, cereals are soaked before cooking. I present here some varieties that do not have long protein chains like wheat, spelled old wheat, buckwheat, millet, and quinoa. All these cereals, to be assimilated and avoid gas or bloating, must be soaked before cooking. And this is even true with the class of legumes like lentils, peas, various beans, etc. It will also be necessary to consume cereals according to our objective. If your objective is to promote detoxification, cleansing, and rejuvenation of the body, cereals will require too much work from your body to correctly meet your objective, your goal. They will not be favored either for overweight people. On the other hand, if you are very athletic with a great vitality, cereals will certainly not be a problem for you. If you want to gain weight, they are also ideal, provided, of course, that they are soaked and biological origin. You can also decide to keep them so as not to upset your social life too much. You should therefore not think in terms of good or bad for your health, but in terms of the goal you want to set for yourself. So let's talk about gluten now. Gluten plus intestinal permeability is the highway to allergies. Today, wheat is very often associated with problems of gluten intolerance of allergies, and let's try to figure out what exactly is going on. Gluten is the protein part of wheat. These are long chains of amino acids which sometimes are not completely digested and pass inside the body, thus creating an allergic reaction. And indeed, normally it is only amino acids in simple form that can pass the intestinal barrier. If there are chains of amino acid, the body detects them as foreign bodies and cause an allergic reaction. The reaction to gluten is therefore triggered in the event of poor digestion of the protein chains due to low digestive capital and or in the event of abnormally long protein chains, as in modern wheat, that the body has difficulty to digest. But the fact that these long protein chains pass through our body also testifies to intestinal permeability due to generalized inflammation of the intestines. I recommend an excellent book on this subject with extensive research is Intestinal Failure and Rehabilitation, a clinical guide, modern nutrition science, and this is the book 3. Symptoms of gluten allergy after ingestion of wheat are both physiological, like flatulence, swollen stomach, diarrhea, etc., and psychological, like apathy or hyperexcitability, as gluten acts enormously on the vascularization of the brain. This has been largely proven on the many research. The first solution people think of is to stop consuming gluten. This relieves punctually, but the danger is to leave oneself off the hook. Because the initial problem is not linked to the food, but to the deterioration of the intestinal state with hyperpermeability and the lack of digestion. The food to which we are allergical only reveals the state of our field. The eviction of a first food can lead to the appearance of a new food allergy, then a third. The food palette is becoming more and more limited, but the initial problem has still not been resolved. It is necessary to provide an anti-inflammatory diet, which, by bringing a lot of micronutrients, will contribute to digestive disinflammation and the disappearance of hyperpermeability. If in addition you include digestive rest and strengthening with Ayurveda, you will strengthen your body as a whole and improve your digestive capacity. The goal of my program is to adopt a diet based on highly digestible, unprocessed products so that in the event of an outside invitation, your body has been strengthened enough not to collapse if you make a deviation in your dinner. So the alternative to the wheat There are very interesting alternatives to wheat already because they do not contain gluten. They allow you to vary the cereals, but also because for some they are not cereals. They have chains of sugar much shorter and therefore much more digestible. Rice does not contain gluten, but it has fairly long sugar chains, which are therefore potentially difficult to digest. Buckwheat is a pseudo cereal from the Polygonaceae family. It has the advantage of having much shorter sugar chains and which after soaking is a very digestible product. It will be necessary to rinse it several times. If you germinate them, you can eat them even without cooking. In organic stores, you can find pre-germinated and pre-cooking buckwheat. Quinoa, like buckwheat, is a pseudo-cereal from the Polygonaceae family with the same properties, and millet is also a very digestible pseudo-cereal. Hen corn is a variety of ancient wheat, and since the end of the Second World War, wheat has been selected so that it can withstand mechanization. The disadvantage of these wheats is that they contain very long protein chains that are very difficult to digest. Corn has the advantage of having shorter protein chains than modern wheat. So, what proportion of cereals in our diet? For a period, it may be good for you to cut out cereals while you detoxify your body, but do not forbid cereals. Do not avoid them. There are different seasons in nature, and there are different seasons for an individual, like is saying. Experiment without grain for a while and observe how you feel. This will be a time when you get most of your sugars from fruit. If you feel better, keep this diet. Otherwise, keep a share of cereal, but by making informed choices, soaked and fermented cereal if possible, preferring pseudo cereals, but it will be up to everyone to see according to their objective, to their goals and requirements. So I'm happy to share this with you, and please try what you learn in this podcast, and please let me a comment if you try this, and if you have any question, I will be really pleased to answer to any doubt, any question, or any compliment you need. I wish you a very good day, and please take care of yourself. Listen your body, listen your mind, not too much, but just in a good balance. And I tell you very soon, goodbye. Bye-bye. Have a good day.